Welcome, cats and kittens, to a long overdue Bad Faith podcast live stream, joined by the one and only hostess with the mostest, Katie Rose Halper. How are you this Hallows Eve?
I'm good. How are you, Bree?
I'm doing very well, thank you. I'm very glad to see that it seems that you are in a politically themed Halloween costume.
I am here. Here's how you can recognize me. I'm indeed Kristen Cinema, for those who don't get it.
I love it. Do you have any guesses on who I might be?
Are you like are you the Supreme Court justice who we would have had if Ruth Bader Ginsburg had hired black clerks?
No, but that's an excellent guess. I love that. How about here's a clue.
What does it say?
It's a bill.
Oh, okay. So you are you the parliamentarian?
I am the parliamentarian.
Oh, that's great. That's a really good idea.
I'm here to kill all of your hopes and dreams.
Yeah. But you look too nice to be the parliamentarian.
Wait, what I hear is she's a very nice lady.
Oh yeah, she does look nice, yeah.
Who we shouldn't have any personal animus toward, and I think that's right. I think that she's been put in the crosshairs as a a scapegoat for the whims of the Democratic Party establishment. And so, look, I'm really just trying to cast Kathleen McDonough in a new light, personify her, humanize her
as the killer that she is.
The killer of bills. After I bought all the pieces for this costume, it occurred to me that I should have just bought a Kill Bill costume.
Oh, that's
you
really
mean like
good.
The yellow costume, and then I could have done smart. Like a hot girl
been the
Halloween.
Democrats. Right, you could have just been the Democrats
without having to like walk around in a ill-fitting wig and a robe unnecessarily. I could have just actually had my hot girl Halloween life going.
Right. Well, yeah. Shout out to my friend Ava Farkas, who every year is honestly, she's so brave and she does the most unflattering costumes. This year she was Curtis Sliwa. She's also been Escobar from Narcos. Marina Abramovich. I really admire her. Like, it's the opposite of what most women do in the world, which is implicit or explicit sexy, insert thing afterwards.
Well, how do you feel about that? I mean, there's a lot of really interesting politics around that. I think the idea of women wanting to do sexy Halloween costumes has become so like such a trope and like such a gag for folks to make fun of that it makes me defensively want to defend the right to be sexy once a year without shame or reservation.
Right, without judgment. Yeah, which I guess in theory we're supposed to have all the time. But yeah, I think it's I guess it's funny how early it starts. Not sexy, but like pretty. Like I would always want to be like a sparkly fairy princess, I think is what I would like to be. Or I was like I was also Dorothy a lot from Wizard of Oz, which let me wear these. I remember my mom got me ballet slippers and sprayed them with like red glitter. It's a pretty good ruby slipper substitute.
That's cute. I like
yeah. But I just admire people like my friend Ava who I really do admire people like that who go as things that are, or people who go as like props and stuff like that. Oops, sorry.
What do you mean people who go as props?
Like with props, like as cardboard, like cardboard signs on them or something like that.
Yeah, I get it. Look, I'm a fan of a prop.
Yeah, but I mean like when they become a sign themselves, stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's funny that you say that when you were little, you really wanted to be kind of pretty things. I don't remember having a lot of say over what I was going to be for Halloween.
Oh, interesting. You had like a top down.
Yeah, and I don't remember complaining about it. Like I don't remember like having disagreements, but I remember my father used to come up with like really interesting ad hoc costumes based on what was in the house, and then I was just going to go with it. And there was usually such good stuff.
Yeah.
Like, so I remember like the banner year was the year that I went as a bunch of grapes. And, he took one of my ballet uniforms and he dyed them green in a pot on the oven. and
Oh,
then,
wow.
blew up and attached like dozens of purple balloons to me. And
Wow.
I like slowly popped and deflated over the course of the night, but it was very elaborate and like very adorable. I was like 6.
That's really cute. Do you have a photo of it?
Oh yeah. I mean, maybe we can do it. Yeah, we can do a little
Yeah. I gotta look.
sharing.
I have one I'm not even gonna say I had a problematic thing as a baby. I can't even say what it was. I can't say it.
Come on, Katie.
I can't.
You can't say it and then not tell us.
It's a fairly typical, or used to be a fairly typical costume.
Was it based on a Disney movie that came out around
No,
1995?
no, it's like a
6?
genre, kind of like a genre of people.
A
It's really
genre of
problematic.
people. But it wasn't like a Pocahontas costume?
No,
Another genre of people?
it's a kind of misnomer genre of people.
Like
The
a
real
hobo?
word, no. That I could see my
Okay.
parents doing with pride, like some class
I
analysis in there.
I
That would have been
definitely feel
pro,
like
yeah.
that there was one year
No,
where it was like a hodgepodge kind of a
poor,
yeah,
poor
yeah,
itinerant.
correct.
Let's see. All right. I shouldn't even tell you guys. I'll tell you another time. I have to check with my mom about how she wants me to reveal it. It's nothing. I mean, let's just say a fortune teller. I'm going to change to a fortune teller.
Oh, yeah, I was also a fortune teller.
Yeah.
A tarot card reader.
Yes.
So for years, it's a really, for a while there in the 90s, those kind of bohemian, like boho gathered tops were really in.
Right.
And so everyone had a bunch.
Yep.
And then you throw on some scarves and some hoop earrings and you were good to go.
I was a baby, so it was really cute.
Yes, I was also a baby.
Yeah.
I will see if I'm going to text my brother and see if he can find me the great picture. And my mom, so I'm not distracted.
You want me to? Should I send you Ava?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
And also we should start. Let me not neglect people who have sent in questions. Oh God, Katie, I'm so bad at this. Okay, how do I get this on the screen? A long story short, vote independent candidate Curtis Silver for mayor of New York to end animal kill shelters. Thank you. A long story short. Super nerd, have you all already talked about the NYC mayor race / vaccine mandates and the striking city workers election on Tuesday could determine a ton? Is there any question that Eric Adams is going to win, Katie?
I didn't think that there was. I'm open to a surprise victory by this guy here. I'm going to show you right now. I can't believe we should have her on the show. Hold on.
Because here's a little bit of a spoiler. Tomorrow's episode of Bad Faith, the premium episode, will feature a lengthy and very intimate interview with Andrew Yang, where I asked him about, his new book. Obviously, I asked him about the New York mayoral race and I think what the left perceives his biggest gaffe and all of that, which was that unreserved pro-Israel letter that happened after the skirmishes in what was that, like April or May?
Yeah,
May. And also I asked him about, reading the book. I was reminded that, he had gotten support from Dave Chappelle, who had come out and done a concert for him. So I asked him about all of the brouhaha over the Dave Chappelle special. And we got into some pretty interesting stuff.
Wow.
But yeah, it was an opportunity for me to revisit the New York mayoral race for the first time in several months. And it kind of felt like a done deal. It felt like the liberal media was already in kind of hero making mode for Eric Adams. I saw some very friendly articles about his veganism and kind of really humanizing him and completely ready to. So yeah.
Well, where is he on kill shelters? I mean, apparently Sliwa is where it's at.
Wait, what's where it's at? What's going on?
If you look at the photo I sent you / someone else put it in the chats, I guess Curtis Sliwa is good on animal shelters.
Oh, that's so cute. Okay, let me figure out how to get this on my.
Yeah, I can do it. If you want, I can do it. You want me to do it?
I closed my messenger app, Katie, because the two of us sitting here as such Luddite is probably not the best.
I'll get it. I'll do it. I can figure out how to do it on StreamYard. Hold on.
My internet is not as clear as it should be, so let me make sure my. Oh shoot. Okay, one second. My I'm gonna plug in my.
Here, I'll do it. Okay, move to. Okay.
Okay, let's see if we can get our
All right, I think I can do it.
internet a little bit better.
All right, here we go. Here, I'll add this.
Is my internet better now?
Yeah, it looks better to me. Okay, here's my friend Ava. Hold on. I'm just always just so impressed by her costumes. Hold on, can you see it? I think you have to share it. I put it in, but you have to share the screen.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Got it.
And you're gonna want to scroll down.
That's really cute.
Right? But again, it's so bright. Okay, and then you can see the Sliwa animals first. And then she has her foot on the she's apparently a real cat person.
Okay, but she still looks cute. Like you were acting like this is like one of those costumes where you're like,
yeah. No, I guess she does. Yeah,
Uggo.
I just think she becomes so Sliwa that it's hard to even see her as, what's the thing behind the hair? I don't know. I guess is that part of it?
The thing behind the hair?
Like there's a tassel. Is that part of the hat? It must be, right?
I don't know that I'm seeing what you're seeing. I'm seeing kind of a shadow in a window.
Yeah, but on the right side of her, oh, maybe you can't see it in that one, but there's something hanging right on the border of her jacket.
Okay.
Anyway.
So Katie.
Yes.
Here's some good questions that are coming in. And this is a subject that we've been talking about a little bit ourselves. The Purple Circle wants to know whether we think that left tubers can sustain their credibility without acknowledging the actual action / work that they're taking off camera. Is an ideology without action, just rhetoric. And we've had a whole media cycle about people buying houses and how much money do folks make. And, there is a discourse about whether some people, there's a relationship between how much money they earn and whether or not they take certain political positions, which may or may not be a legitimate connection to draw, but is something that I know a lot of listeners are thinking about and talking about. There's obviously pressures for left YouTubers to talk about, whatever Sean Hannity or Tucker Carlson are doing. And there's also incentives to do a certain degree of infighting and have kind of debate me shows with some of these bread tube bros. I mean, do you feel those incentives and do you get frustrated when you do like a stream? I mean, you do so many amazing, substantive, informative streams, Katie, that don't always get the same amount of payoff as some of these other kinds of inflammatory events.
Right.
And how do you feel about that and the sustainability of all of these projects?
Right. Yeah, it can be frustrating, but I guess there's nothing. I'm trying to see what is blocking me. So it looks like my arm is like totally cut off when I'm sitting down. There's something weird happening, but I'm going to just give that up. But that's a little mirror into the many things that you have to worry about when you're streaming. But so I mean, I think sometimes the personal is political, and then I think sometimes it's kind of pathetic the lanes people will go to in order to discredit someone. And there's a lot you can discredit people just in terms of their positions. You don't have to make it personal. I think we live in a world where, I mean, to me, what the most important thing is if you become wealthy or you are wealthy and you oppose, it really reminds me of the Bernie Sanders thing a little bit when he became a millionaire. It's like, well, the hypocrisy would be if he then came out either publicly or privately and changed his stance on taxes. Like that's where it's a bad thing.
But in terms of the incentive structure of BreadTube itself, not, whether or not, I don't think the argument from anyone is that people on the left can't make money, but it's whether or not people are able to make more money doing things that are potentially less beneficial to the movement. And then if they do, whether there should be some standard for how much money is being given to mutual aid, et cetera.
I see. Yeah. Well, no, I think that it's like, not to sound too chiding, but it is depressing that like if you get a debate between two people who are just online personalities, that'll do really well in terms of clicks. And if you have a substantive, important show with like resources, you brought up mutual aid, like resources about housing or something, it won't get as much. But also, what is there to do about it? It's kind of like human nature. It kind of reminds me of the thing where it's like people are upset that we shouldn't care about leaders. We should care about movements. It's like, well, you're going to reinvent the wheel. It can be depressing, but you have to walk that line, I think. Like I thought, a really good show the other day that was with Alex Press and Jonah Furman. And the reason I thought it was good was it kind of took advantage of this recent tragedy with the Alec Baldwin killing. But it's sad. It's like sad, but it's also just reality, which is that, like, I think if we just had a show called like The State of the Labor Movement with a picture of a worker, like a John Deere worker or an IATSE worker, we probably wouldn't have had as many eyes. But because we had Alec Baldwin's face on it, I think we probably got more, and it was framed around the Alec Baldwin shooting. And then, of course, it's like, come for the clicky headlines, stay for the actual discussion. Then you get people shaming you for like having clickbaity headlines. It's like, why? I mean, it'd be one thing if I was like promising someone something that they didn't get, but as long as you're honest, it's like, again, what are we going to do? Reinvent the wheel? Like, we want people to see these stories, not because of like, oh, the clicks and I'm being validated or I'm getting lots of money. Like, if I wanted to make a lot of money, it wouldn't be through this.
Right.
So it's just about getting people to I think pay attention to important stories. So hopefully you came for the Alec Baldwin thing, and you stayed for not just the conversation about workers' issues and organizing and what we can do, but also for the important Assange story that was afterwards.
Yeah, I think you do a really good job of writing that line of using a certain kind of heading, or like doing a media peg. Like, that's what I always try to do as well. Like, use the media story to talk about something else. Like, if everyone was talking about Hasanabi's house, it's like, to me, it's like, okay, great. Let's have Richard Wolff on and have Chris Hedges on to talk about the broader issue, what the obligations are for people on the left, separate and apart from whatever you think about one individual. I want to shout out, a long story short again, says, Katie, I bought you a small gift from a thrift. Make sure your Instagram. I know you don't usually respond to unchecked leaves.
Wow. I guess I need a post office, post mailbox, whatever it's called.
Mr. O says, is Bria Judge? I dressed up as AOC for Halloween. You might be entertained by it. I posted under a Halloween live stream tweet. I am not a judge. In fact, I
thought she was so.
Killing this bill. I am the bringer of death to all legislation, aka the parliamentarian. I am the parliamentarian. All right. Thank you for that, Mr. O.
Or the alternate interpretation, she's a black judge that we could have had if Ruth Bader Ginsburg ever had any black clerks.
Ever had any black judges. Super nerd. Voting history as an adult. Kerry, Obama, Stein, Hawkins, Silla may get the upset. Mandates are a big factor for the working class. Yeah, what do you make of that, Katie? We had Giannis Varoufakis on the last episode, and I asked him. Yeah, I'm obsessed. Both my mom was gushing about the episode, and we both confessed to each other that we're nursing little girl crushes on him, both of us.
Right. Because the thing about Giannis is he's very smart, and at the same time, very good leftist analysis.
That's not bad, Katie.
Thank you. I have to work on it more. But personally, for example, yeah.
Well, we asked him about, the Noam Chomsky statements about, vaccine mandates, and, that had gone viral earlier in the week, because he had basically said, if people should self-sequester if they don't want to get mandates, and if they have issues getting food or other goods, that's their problem. And he was a little flippant about it. And there were some statements about the use of surveillance to track people who were non-compliant that some felt were authoritarian, and somewhat of a departure from his historical stance on these issues. And Giannis very graciously said, we're friends, and I haven't heard his statement, so I don't want to weigh in too much. But he had a take, and he was like, basically, that I support vaccines. I have a vaccine. I think that everyone should be vaccinated. I'm going to get my booster. But I don't think it's useful to become, I think he said, anti-vaxxers. Maybe I should pull up that clip. That we shouldn't be anti-vaxxers, because that will serve to alienate people further. Yeah. It just doesn't work. It's not an effective persuasion technique.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, I think that there's a lot of performative anti-vaxxer, what is it? Anti-vaxxerism that I think can be, it kind of reminds me of the vote shaming. It's a little different, but there's some parallels. But I do think, again, it's kind of like, do we want to convince people to get the vaccine, or do we want to get off on shaming them? And on a similar note, it's like, did we want to get people to vote for, you know, to the extent that people were wanting people to vote for Biden, it's like, you know, are you going to do that by calling them pieces of shit if they don't? Or blaming people who,
Yeah, here, I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted because I'm trying to upload this. Let's see if this works. We can just watch the clip really quick. These recent remarks by Noam Chomsky that had him trending on Twitter earlier this week, where he has come down very strong on vaccine mandates. And I wonder what you make of this ongoing debate and this balance between kind of civil liberties and an investment in getting the COVID pandemic under control.
Well, I have to say that Noam is a great friend of mine. I haven't had the chance to discuss this with him, so I will not comment much on it because I really don't know what he said on this. But I'll tell you what my position has been on this. I'm a very strong pro-vaccination advocate, but at the same time, I very much fear that those of us who are supporting the vaccination drive are shooting ourselves in the foot. When we become anti-vaxxers, when we become prone to demonizing those who are skeptical of the vaccines. I personally think that it is irrational to fear vaccines, but at the same time, there's so little trust in government and in big pharma that when somebody comes to me people walk up to me on the street and they say, "What should I get vaccinated? Should I vaccinate my children? Should I vaccinate my wife, my husband, whatever?"
What's that?
I'm not famous enough. No one's ever asked me my opinion on the street of whether they should get vaccinated. Now I feel like I need to attain that kind of fame. I guess I need to become a minister of whatever, finance minister for government.
Katie, there's still time.
There's still time, yeah.
And I say, yes, do it. But I try to talk to them with respect for their fear. People have good reason to fear authority. And of course, Noam Chomsky knows this better than anyone else. And when you deal with this fear, you've got to do it respectfully. You must never demonize. You must speak to them, talk to them with facts, with statistics, open their eyes. So you need an education campaign. Using surveillance and using authoritarianism is both wrong morally and absolutely ineffectual. In the end, all you're managing to do is you're managing to strengthen the anti-vax feeling of those who are not crazies, but who are simply slightly worried of everything that they hear.
All right. So for those of you who don't know, that was our latest free Thursday episode. You can go back and listen to that.
All right. Some people in the comments are making such obnoxious comments, but I shouldn't even.
About what, Katie? You're such a slave to the comments. Here, let's read this comment.
That's good. I like
now says, I'm going to be. How are we going to pay for it for Halloween? Love it. I would love to hear more about how you're going to manifest that one. Giannis looks like he should be on Star Trek. There were a lot of those kind of comments, and it made me think that I should have just gone ahead and been in one of my multiple Uhura costumes for the interview. Although maybe for the second time he meets me, maybe that's a little bit
too much. Yeah.
Okay, so there have been a couple of things that have been going on of late that I wanted to ask you about, Katie. I wanted to respond to. This one I felt like was kind of bait, and I wanted to get your reaction to friend of the show. She recently had a birthday. One of the left's favorite politicians, aka one of our favorite antagonists, shared a birthday / Halloween memory the other day, and I wanted to see what you thought of it. And it is right here. Did you catch this?
No. Okay, let's see. So what is this? Chelsea Clinton. It says, "Thank you, Mom, for being a clown with me for Halloween, supporting all of their costume choices throughout the years and always cheering me on. Most of all, thank you for being such a wonderful grandma. Happy birthday, Hillary Clinton." Okay, and then let's see. What's the image of? What is
Clowns.
she? I can't even figure. All right. kind of generic clown.
Ben's,
It's not
everything, all of the 80s, 90s costumes were like unnecessarily terrifying. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like the
Yes.
80s version of a clown costume is like legitimately terrifying instead of sort of cute and light. But what I
Right.
really want to ask you
But
about
what is this clown? What is this like autumnal? Can you like click on, zoom in on it a little bit? Why is it so autumnal?
oh, you know,
It's like,
Halloween's in the fall.
yeah, I know, but it's weird. It's like they're not really. I think they fucked this up. I
What do you
don't think
mean?
that that's not a. That's like they're supposed to be scarecrows or something.
Maybe it's a hodgepodge. But I
A
wonder what
hodgepodge.
your take is. I mean, you're a Cancer. You're born in July. I know your exact birthday, but I feel like it's doxing you or something to say it. So I don't know, although probably it's on the internet.
That's
I don't
okay.
know. Anyway, I was just asking Andrew Gang about whether he feels like his astrological background has any bearing on his kind of public persona, political ambitions, etc. Because he mentioned in the book that he used to always read his horoscope as a kid growing up. So I wonder what you make of this reminder that Hillary Clinton was in fact a Scorpio, one of the most maligned, shall I say, of signs.
She was a Scorpio.
She continues to be a Scorpio.
She is a Scorpio. Okay. And they pinch, right?
I mean, literal scorpions pinch, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, but why is this her birthday also, this Halloween
Yeah,
thing?
it's also, it was a couple of days ago, yeah.
Got it. Okay. Now I'm getting it. Yeah, she is a, that seems like a good parallel, a good appropriate sign to be. I'm sorry, I'm really distracted by this story. I think we have a Clinton scandal under our nose that we didn't really pay attention to, which is I just don't think that is a clown costume. And I think that this is her and Chelsea from back in the day. Is that what we're looking at? Is that
yes,
right?
but, yes, but Katie, I don't know that is quite the reveal.
I mean, and yeah, look at that. What's interesting is the wallpaper. The wallpaper choice is very Laura Ashley. All right. Well, anyway. All right. So what do I think? Okay, the important story is her being a Scorpio.
I mean,
Scorpion?
I think so. I'm less interested. I mean, they're kids in costumes. I'm less like interested in necessarily riling against that. Although it did seem like sort of bait, you know, for, Chelsea knows how her mother is perceived. She knows what the clown emoji signifies on the internet. It did feel like bait.
Right. What are they trying to distract from?
No, just to get a bunch of Bernie bros to say something negative and mean about a little girl and her mom and all of that kind of stuff.
Right.
Okay. Here's another. I'm gonna do this again. You know how we have this issue with getting videos to play, but tell me if you can hear this.
Okay. Yeah, just raise it up a little if possible.
And that comes from my dad used to say to me all the time, son, wherever there is a will, there is a way. So I'm not too sure that Democrats have yet developed the will to win in 2022. I think we can.
All right. So that's Representative Clyburn saying the Democrats are in trouble if the reconciliation bill doesn't pass, that they don't have enough to offer people substantively. It's something that the left has been saying a long time. And now Teslin Figaro, who hopefully we'll have on the show soon, who has been banging this drum and screaming this for a long time, including highlighting the extent to which Black voters have been saying, I'm not doing this again. I'm not going to be sold down river again. I'm not falling for this. We need you as a backbone of the party. Come out and vote for us. And now we're going to cut HBCU funding, which you ran on. We're going to not cancel any student debt. We are going to not pass the George Floyd Act and trot out civil rights icons like Al Sharpton to provide cover for the Biden administration, and not doing so by Biden's own self-imposed deadline. That we're not going to vote again. What do you make of the fact that now even Clyburn is ringing this bell?
I mean, I'm so suspicious about all of this. In a way, it's okay, great. I'm glad you're on board, Clyburn, but it is, and it's good to see people like supporting Democrats actually doing something. but I don't trust it.
Why not? Say
Like,
more.
I think that there is this rotating villain thing going on with Cinema and Mansion, and I think that maybe they're all in on it, and that they know they're just going to keep saying no, and then they get to pretend that they all wanted it, but they never really did, or they weren't willing to go to the mat for it.
I mean, do you think that there was something in their political imagination that said they didn't want what we wanted, and there was a lot of cosplaying about being sincerely invested in many aspects of the bill, but they did still expect to get more than what this $1.7
Yeah, maybe
trillion
there's
compromise is?
yeah.
Or maybe they didn't actually anticipate the media, like the news cycle, to be so critical of the Democratic Party's efforts, because historically it has been the case that kind of like revisionist history that says, oh, this is the biggest bill in half a century, and they have successfully landed, at least in the mainstream media, the idea that Biden is the next FDR. The fact that this is the biggest thing in a long time has been enough, even if it's much smaller than what is needed in the moment. And it seems like maybe it's because of the left that we've been able to push through that this is not in fact adequate, and that they can't sell this as a victory as easily as they planned to do.
Right. Yeah, I think that's true. And I think that, like, I do think it helps push the Overton window. I mean, we've done that. And for whatever reason, maybe it's self-preservation. Like, they don't want the masses out there starving, or the masses out there too hungry and desperate. Maybe that's what is finally getting the media to look at this. I mean, we do have a lot of assholes out there still, right? Like Joe Scarborough is like defending Mansion and Cinema and the how are we going to pay for it stuff. But it is true. It has been surprising to see people who usually are totally out of touch or don't care actually come out and be critical of Cinema and Mansion. The thing is, again, we just have to be worried and keep our eye on the ball and be like, okay, so Biden, what are you going to do about it? Or, Schumer, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Pelosi, what are you going to do about it? But it is good that it's that there's some pushback and there's some narrative cohesion.
Okay, sorry, I'm trying to multitask and it's extremely frustrating. I was trying to see if David Sirota would hop on real quick.
Oh yeah, we had him on this week on Useful Idiots, and I had him on my show a couple weeks before then and talked about this issue of how Christian Cinema is kind of uniquely evil and a teachable moment, but also not the only reason that Dems don't have what.
Right. Well, I have a Kirsten Cinema clip for you to watch, related clip.
And that's who I am, by the way, in case people don't know.
We've got Kirsten Cinema. I was trying to change my little label down beneath my picture, but I couldn't figure out how to do it now that the stream has already started. Super nerd again. Speaking of will to win, once Dems get crushed in 22 and 24, are we going to be cool with this mandate precedent under the next administration? That's an interesting question, because I seem to remember our vice president saying that she was going to be skeptical of any vaccine produced and pushed by Donald Trump.
Yeah, that was always very weird and stupid for her to say.
I mean, we live in a world where, the latest scandal was what? The Lincoln Project doing a PSYOP, doing a false flag operation, sending those tiki torch boys in front of Republican Virginia gubernatorial candidate Youngkin's van. Did you see that story, Katie?
Yes. Yeah.
Things are topsy-turvy and the rules get flipped depending on who's the winner, and liberals are kind of painting that as a conservative faux pas, even though the Lincoln Project have been kind of team blue, definitionally. That's their whole thing. Yeah. Okay.
Constantly on MSNBC, constantly on Bill Maher. Yeah.
This is really important. People haven't noticed it until I pointed it out on Twitter the other day, but I just lost this nail, so I'm not going to show it.
Wow.
I have my nails matching my mic. It's been this way for about 2 months now. I've really been trying to up the.
How many mic colors do you have?
I've ordered like a bag of multicolored ones, maybe like 5 or 6 a while ago.
That's a good idea.
Grim Reaper parliamentarian. That's right. I've got too many props for this. I've got a bill, a bloody bill. I've got a gavel. By the way, they handed these out when we graduated law school. Sign of the recession. They used to hand out real wooden gavels to the graduating class. And because I started law school in 2008, like a month before the financial crisis. We still paid $60,000 a year in tuition, but now we get these plastic gavels upon graduation. Wow.
Wow.
Okay, Katie, have I got a clip for you? All about your girl. Let me cue it up. Let's get rid of this one. Let's add this one. Oops.
I'm just doing my Kristen cinema move.
Wait, how do I get rid of that? Okay. Share screen. Share screen. Window. Here we go. Katie. Here we go. Did you see this?
Yeah. Okay, so you want to go up so people can see what it's.
Please, this person is not my daughter. My daughter's getting married. Will you tell her that? Did you invite Senator to really hear? No, listen, we don't like what she's doing to our country.
How would you invite this?
You know what? Tell her. I don't disagree with any of you people when you're going to do it, you're right. It's my daughter's wedding.
So pull her out.
Please just go down to the corner for 1 hour.
Yeah, pull cinema out.
So maybe to set this up a little bit for people
Yeah.
who can't read the top.
Yeah.
Sorry. Kirsten Sinema apparently attended this woman's daughter's wedding. And protesters came outside to protest Kirsten Sinema, who is holding up substantial rights for masses of Americans. And this is the mother of the bride who's come out to plead with the protesters to please stop or at least keep quiet while the ceremony ensues.
Right. Not in a costume. She's just dressed like that. By the way, Libs of TikTok is a conservative account, just so people know. And they don't get the nuance. They don't get the difference between leftists and libs. So for them, this is just like a whole liberal thing.
Right. So this person is sympathetic, I guess, to Kirsten Sinema. And honestly, I think that I have some human sympathy for the mother here, but I also am kind of with the guy who's like, okay, kick her out.
Yeah,
No
throw
one-
her to,
no one
throw her
wants
to the crowd.
too. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
and if I were Sinema and I'm the one
Nobody
causing
does
the
anything
ruckus,
stupid, no one gets hurt.
yeah, and if I'm Sinema and I'm the one causing the ruckus at this wedding, I would leave. You know,
Right.
that's the whole point, that Sinema should be inconvenienced. She should take herself out of the situation so that innocent bystanders aren't affected by her bad behavior. But, you know, I really feel like the proportionality of what's going on here, millions of Americans working at slave wages, millions of Americans not being able to pay for much needed social programs because she is fundamentally against raising taxes on the wealthy, on the very, very elite, like top 700 earners in America. Not even earners. We shouldn't call them that because they're not earning anything. They're wealth havers in America. They're passive income havers in America. And so this clip has become so divisive. What's your take, Katie, as the resident cinema expert?
Right. Well, I'm obviously very triggered by it. My as someone who's, you know, I've really internalized and externalized my Kristen Sinema character. I mean, you know, I'm going to say something, and I don't know, I'm probably going to get some shit for this, but like, you know, media moments are media moments. They're supposed to, you have to think about how things are going to come off, and it's always hard to figure out how they're landing when you're not, when you don't have like data on it. I mean, I find it satisfying. I do wonder, how much this is, I don't know. Do you think it's backfiring at all?
I haven't seen feedback on it except for on the left. I mean, on Twitter, and obviously all of my Twitter followers are like leftists who think this is great. Look, optically, I think the wedding seems affluent.
Yeah,
so that's good optics.
Yeah, sure.
The people who are protesting seem not so downtrodden, but less affluent than the party, which is good optics. Now, would it be better if they had managed to get some like real down and out? I mean, this is all aesthetic and really crude to talk about these ways, but like if they had gotten, you know, some kids, some
Little
diversity, some unhomed people, like, I don't know, like in the mix, sure. But I also think there's something really powerful about the fact that these are like everyday.
Well, they're just dressed up, right? They're in costume also. Are they in a costume?
No, I think this is just Arizona.
Oh my
Sorry.
Wait a second.
I think these are just whimsical, kind of bohemian airs. Oh, wait, you're right. Here's
No,
here's
there. Okay.
here's a mask.
I got scared. I was like, am I that out of touch with the New York elite that I think people not from New York look like they're in costume?
Sorry,
Okay.
I just thought that they were kind of bohemian. I thought they were just kind of bohemians, which are my people, you know. And the
Right.
masks make it
Oh,
very
and the mask,
typical.
right? Is it a regular? Okay, that what does that one say? I guess that
Kirsten
Kirsten
Cinema
Cinema
is
is a corporate show. Okay, fair enough. Then I see the whimsical kind of farm look right there. That's
People over something, Senator Sellout. People over profits.
maybe. Yeah.
People over profits. Okay, all right. Like, we'll see how this goes over the course of the next few days. But like, honestly, if this is a recurring phenomenon that's happening with all representatives, frankly, I think that it would become difficult to ignore the extent to which, even if there is a negative media backlash from the billionaires in our corporate media sphere, that this is something, that a kind of action that has the force of the people behind it. We've got a comment from friend of the show, Nathan J. Robinson. Hey, Nathan. He says, agree with Katie. They pretend Manchin and Cinema are worse than the rest of them, but Biden never gave any indication that he believed in anything himself.
Yeah, he hasn't been pushing behind. I mean, unless there's something behind the scenes, what has he been doing to get these people into line?
Right. Debate Me channel, $20. Thank you. When are we going to see thousands of people in the streets protesting the progressives folding 100% and gutting the bill? Biden admitted recently that he needs their votes, but the public is focused on Pelosi's decoys. SMH. What do you make about that? How much onus, how much blame do you think should fall on the progressives in Congress here? This is a very divisive question.
Right. Can I let's see. Folding. Biden admits that he needs their votes, but the public's focused on Pelosi's decoys. Yeah, I think they should refuse. I think they should play hardball. They should vote against it.
So vote down both bills.
Yeah.
And, you know, do you think they're actually going to?
No.
Why is that?
I mean, I don't know. What do you think? You are much more experienced in this stuff than I am, as someone who actually worked on it. Campaign more recent. I mean, I worked on like Dukakis's campaign as an 8-year-old.
Well, I think I'm kind of with Jill Stein on this one. I'm going to pull up a clip of our interview that I did with her a few months ago, where I asked her this very question. Do you think that the progressives are going to hold the line? Do you think that this is kind of symbolic? And do you think that what's going to end up happening is that they're going to neuter the reconciliation bill to the extent to which they can say that they technically held the line, so that both bills passed, but in effect it was so neutered that it didn't matter? Here, I'm going to pull that in right now because I am a pro who can totally share screens seamlessly.
Why did Kirsten Cinema wear a purple wig one day?
Wait, that's a question that we should revisit after the break.
ANC and others have recently said and have maintained that they will not vote for the bipartisan infrastructure bill unless the broader human infrastructure bill is also passed. Do you have confidence that they're actually going to stick that landing and force the vote, as it were, on this issue?
I'm afraid not. Not by any means.
I just realized that Stein and Marianne talk alike.
Force a $15 minimum wage or a vote on Medicare for all. I don't see how they're going to do this where there's a bigger package, a much bigger package at stake. And it's not the be all end all, but it does have a lot of good stuff in it. It's going to be a very hard decision for them. And I just think they are too much a part of the system to be able to flaunt it. It's the same thing that, I sort of see as the curse that Bernie carries around, which is that he's been inside of the echo chamber of Washington, D.C. for a very long time. And while he calls himself an independent, he really doesn't have an independent mindset. Not that he doesn't play a very, very valuable role, but valuable, like how valuable? We have really kind of a convergence of existential threats right now. There's no getting out of here alive unless we really begin to get out of the echo chamber and begin to really consider how to change this. There's very little time here. And I think we need to think of this as, as what could be our final effort to turn this breaking point into a tipping point.
All right. So, bomb theme song aside, what did you think of Jill Stein's take there?
I think it was a fair one. It was it resonated with me. Her critique of Bernie, how he's played a valuable role, but how valuable really also at the same time, which is kind of a hard thing for me to say. But you know, what are we really expecting? What is really possible? And like, how long can we actually like hold out and expect that these politics as usual, or not even as usual, like some kind of modified politics as usual is going to be okay and get us what we want? And yeah, we are just biding our time. I don't know. It's also depressing.
It is, which is why we're here, Katie, because I feel like it's
Right.
been a hard week. I reached out to my patrons earlier this week and I was like, look, guys, the day that Stephen Donziger was arrested, and Katie, you've done such good coverage of his case from the beginning. Your recent live streams with, you know, Donziger and with Marianne Williamson and Chris Hedges, like that is just amazing content. You've done such a wonderful job of elevating attention to that particular issue. You know, but it was a hard week. That happened the same day as, you know, Assange trial and bad infrastructure news. And I reached out to the patrons and I was like, how are you feeling? And they were like, not good, sis.
Yeah.
And so I was hoping that we could come together
on
a live stream. Exactly.
I may need to grab a glass of wine then.
Grab a glass of wine. I can go through some of these comments and take some comments from the patrons while you do that.
I'm going to stop my camera because and then I'll come back. Okay.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. Take a quick break. I'm going to take her off the screen.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's take this question. Davis, 180ing on the campaign promises does nothing but engender the ire of your constituency. So yes, protest them scumbags at their wedding brunches twice. Thank you, Davis. That's a comment in reference to the video we played a little while ago of people protesting Kyrsten Sinema at a wedding. And I'm going to go over to the Patreon and ask some of the questions that patrons have been putting over there. Dave, 53 minutes ago, asked, have I ever thought about running for office? You know, Dave, obviously one thinks about these things when one is asked about them all the time, but honestly, it does not seem to be a particularly enviable position. I know folks were talking about this a little bit recently because of a little dust up I had with Richie Torres the other day where in response to me pointing out that it is craven and disgusting to be bragging about having child poverty when there is an expiration date on that, especially when you come from the district in the United States that has the highest child poverty rate, 45%, the highest child poverty rate in the entire country. His response to that was to say, well, why don't you run to see what you can do and if you can do better? And of course, you know, I have a little glimmer of petty in me. I did a quick perusal of his district, figured out how many votes I would need to win a primary, assessed whether I could establish residency in the Bronx, found a great apartment, and, you know, entertain that fantasy for an evening. But the reality is that I think that there's a lot more value to be had by being able to be an independent outsider who can hold people accountable and ask tough questions. And if I think there was a more robust media sphere that could do that, I might feel more comfortable about leaving this pulpit. But I quite honestly felt more powerful and more useful as a journalist than I did after I joined the Bernie campaign, and at many moments during the campaign reflected on whether or not I could be more useful to the progressive movement as an outsider and independent analyst than someone who was working from the inside. So this certainly does not have a lot of appeal to me right now. Masha, the genetics gal, she or they, asks, if I were able to snap a finger and make it happen, what would you do to make the left, non-politicians and politicians, prioritize and actually take action on what matters most? Whew, what would I make them do? How would I hold them accountable is, I guess, the real question. It's difficult because on some level we do have a conversation about campaign finance, and so there's more in the way of transparency there. We are having a more robust conversation these days about the gap between what constituents want and what politicians are willing to fight for. But at the end of the day, they're still not doing it because they have all of these intermediate actors that they can blame for their inaction, including people like me, the parliamentarian. And we have a media system that is
like me.
Here's Katie's back. Sorry.
Yeah.
How do I get her back on? Katie, how do I get you back in here? Oh, there
And
you go.
people like me, I was just gonna say.
People
By
like
the way,
Kirsten
look what
Cinema.
I'm drinking, some red sangria. I couldn't find a straw. And remember, this is Kirsten Cinema's fuck offering.
Right. Oh, yep. I do remember. Do you have something written on your hand? I can't see it. Okay.
No, I'm just doing that.
So yeah, I guess two things I would say. I would want a legitimate independent media structure, non-corporate media. I would want there to be local news coverage, local media that would help to engender trust in the media. And I'd say I'm learning, slowly about certain kind of structural changes that have been made in Congress in terms of, for example, in the conversation with Andrew Yang, there's a part in his book where he points out that there used to be an Office of Technological Assessment that kept senators, Congress people updated on new technologies. We're in a role to help prevent things like the huge cock up over the ACA portal. And due to cuts, and because Republicans know that cutting bureaucracy enables their agenda, a lot of the infrastructure, the internal infrastructure of Congress that used to exist that facilitated internal research, developing bills that don't have these terrible mistakes in them, like the ones with this child tax credit cliff that Matt Brunig has helpfully pointed out and helped to get corrected. Like, there were mechanisms in place to help things like that, prevent things like that from happening, that are no longer there. So I would say some of those kind of structural reforms would also be high on my list. Let's take one more question from the Patron, and then we'll go back into the stream.
How do you do that? How do you separate it out? People
well,
write in real time in Patreon?
Yeah, I made a post and I just asked people to comment under the post. So
right, because it's a Patreon only post. Stream, right.
No, it was not a Patreon only stream. It's just for Patreon only viewers, I made a post saying ask me questions about tonight. So ACS impeachment thoughts, spelled THOTS. In the last episode, they painted Hillary and Bill as a couple fighting as a team for neoliberalism, and I screamed. What's ACS? American Constitutional Society? Impeachment thoughts? I'm not sure I understand that question, John Knight.
American Crime Story. That show.
Got it.
On, Monica.
I don't watch. Do you watch?
No, I should. You know what? I keep saying I'm going to do it as like a Patreon or something. Maybe I'll. Is it too late to do it? When does that show end? Sorry, I can't. I
have no idea. No, it's good. I'm kind of like feeling the idea of a pixie bang.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, you have banged, right?
Like this little.
Sorry, this is us trying to bring in some levity. I mean, we have serious questions, and there's serious things we can talk about. And I want to do some psychoanalysis of cinema while also holding the rest of the Dems responsible and being all structural and stuff. But yeah, I don't know what Andrew. I mean, that's interesting what Andrew Yang said. It strikes me as a little bit like exonerating. Or, I feel like the big takeaway, the older I get, the more I get that it's like, it's not that Democrats can't, it's that they don't want to, whatever that issue is. And it's like very Thomas, as our dear friend Thomas Frank points out in Listen Liberal.
Yeah, well, people accuse me of being overly cynical for saying things like that. And I don't want to be. I would love for someone to demonstrate to me why that's not the case. Yeah, I mean, I asked Ro Khanna that. And he, kind of pivoted to the idea that Biden is really trying hard and he has a good heart.
Ro Khanna maybe I'm being the opposite of cynical. But I feel like Ro Khanna may actually be uniquely
credulous.
Yes, like not uniquely not disingenuous.
Maybe, but again, I don't really care what's in people's hearts and minds.
Right.
Or whether or not someone's ingenuous or like sincerely believes in something that's obviously wrong, that doesn't help me.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
No, I'm just saying that I think that most people, right. Yes, I hear what you're saying. But I think most people would not. I mean, most people who watch your show, I'm sure, don't think you're at all cynical for saying that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, but I don't want just to talk to people who watch my show. I would like to break through and get people, the kind of like Anand Giridharadas kind of liberal, left liberal who has a platform to be making arguments and writing pieces in the Atlantic about how Biden is the next FDR. I need he has expressed some disappointment this week, and I need him to have listened to me when I told him in April, when he was writing that article, that this is what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Because if in April we had realized, or it was even in February, I think, we had realized that this was going to be an issue, if we had realized then that the cliff, the last point of real leverage was going to be around the COVID relief bill, the American
That's actually
Rescue
a good thing.
Plan.
That should be a book. All the times that Democrats could have and didn't do that. Who wants to co-write this with me? Bree, we can do it.
There's a question about this coming up, but I want to speed through some of these so we can catch up to the chats. Best way to suggest people and topics for the show, check out merip.org for 50 years of critical news and analysis of the Middle East. Thank you for that. Timothy O'Shea.
But that is a
Dan.
question.
Yeah, here it is.
Sorry,
Dan, £2. Had force the vote happen, will we be in a better position? Katie.
I mean, which force the vote?
That's a good question. Talk about it.
I think that there's we always should have forced the vote. I mean, basically in any occasion. And I know this is a divisive thing and something that Bree and I got a lot of grief over. I think that, but what I was saying before, which is related to this question and the question you asked before, which is that I do think we should do some kind of documentary history that shows how Dems could have done certain things where they pretended they couldn't. Because I think that's an extremely important thing for people to get through their heads. And yes, I wasn't saying you should not try to reach out to the crowd. I just was not sure who you were referring to when you were saying that you were getting called cynical. But now I get you mean not people like in this chat per se, but people you want to reach. But I think that's such an important.
Richard Torres's complaint with me was that I was being unreasonable and making a joke about the fact that
Torres is a politician who is, I think he's a hopeless I mean, politicians can be brought along out of pressure from optics. You're not going to reach him. I think someone like Adnan, maybe I'm being naive, but maybe you could reach him through reason. I think Torres, you'll reach only through political pain or like sticks and carrots, whereas someone like Adnan, I think actually could be open to an analysis, like an exchange of ideas in a way that Torres can't be. Maybe. And shout out to him for being such a good pink washer, by the way. I'm sure all your Palestinian LGBTQ brothers, sisters, and other identities really appreciate that, Richie. And yeah, it's a great place to be gay in Israel, as long as you're an Israeli Jew. So if you're not, have as much fun. Rania Kalik and I used to joke that it was like you get to like dance on the backs of it's like, you look down in an Israeli nightclub and you realize like it's like you're standing on the back of a Palestinian. It's like, oh yeah, this is great fun. Anyway, but back to what you were saying.
Question of force the vote. You asked which force the vote, Katie. So this is an important question because so many folks, despite my having taken the time to write a lengthy article about it, despite doing multiple live streams, episodes, endless commentary about exactly what force the vote is and what it means and what it was about. The people who are anti-force the vote as a whole demonstrate a really disappointing amount of ignorance in the basic facts of what this actually meant as a strategic option. So the point of force the vote is to say use opportunities where there is leverage gained by the fact that there are very narrow margins in the House and the Senate to basically do what Manchin and Sinema have been doing this entire year, which is to say we are not going to go along with X proposition unless Y. So the first instance of force the vote was about the fact that you needed every progressive basically to vote yes to confirm Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House. And at that time, we could have asked for anything that was in Nancy Pelosi's purview, including committee appointments, getting rid of Richie Means as the head of the Ways and Means Committee, or having a vote on any number of bills, including the Medicare for All. That didn't happen and really set the stage for what was going to happen for the rest of the year because the stakes at that point were low, right? There was no COVID vaccines on the line. People weren't going to lose their jobs. No one was going to lose any benefits in anybody's district. The only person who stood to lose was Nancy Pelosi. And all the progressives had plenty to gain. It was really holding one person hostage, one affluent, powerful person hostage, and choosing not to act at that moment really said that it was downhill from there. They claimed at that time that $15 minimum wage was something that they were going to hold out for and use their leverage then as well, even though it's clear that leverage is not a resource that is non-renewable or like limited. right? So then the $15 minimum wage came around, and I agree that that would have been a really powerful moment, because what they're encountering now, Katie, it seems to me, is the fact that the conservatives, including Democratic conservatives, are perfectly willing to tank this bill. Both bills. They don't actually care. And a lot of people were selling us, including some progressives, were trying to sell us on the idea that corporate Dems were really committed to the BIF, the bipartisan infrastructure bill, and that was legitimate leverage because they really, really wanted that to pass. Now, there was never any substantiation of that. You know, my friend at The Intercept, Ryan Grimm, was really pushing that, and I didn't question it at the time. But in retrospect, I'm really curious, what on earth was the reasoning for believing that anybody was genuinely committed to this bipartisan infrastructure bill? Now it turns out that it's pretty obvious that nobody really cares if it tanks or not, and they're willing to tank the whole thing. Now, I think it was very different with the COVID relief bill, because that was a bill that included a lot of money for businesses and affluent folks to keep the economy going. They wanted to reopen. They needed those vaccines out so we could reopen businesses. We needed Amazon, all the big players needed us to reopen. They needed the COVID relief to go out, and they needed the stimulus for business. And so that is the kind of bill that even Republicans, conservative Democrats, needed to go out. And that is exactly why that should have been the point at which progressives pressed on some of these progressive priorities.
Yep, agreed. Amen. That's why we were FTV.
So yeah, we're right about everything. sorry. I'm having a day. The original force to vote, leverage for voting for Pelosi. Yeah, I think that we answered that. Jimmy Good, you two make me feel like we progressives are part of Dumbledore's army or something. I feel lucky to be part of the good fight. Keep it up. Yeah. I love that, Jimmy Good. Thank you for that, Jimmy Good. All right, let me go back and take some Patreon questions. Here's a good one for you, Katie. CTH asks, did the Pete Buttigieg controversy kill paid family leave?
Oh, that's a good question. So that was that what he was getting that he was getting it?
Yeah, the controversy was that, you know, the supply chain crisis being what it is, Pete Buttigieg being Secretary of Transportation, it came out that he has taken many months of paternity leave off after his twins were adopted. Joe Rogan recently made jokes about this on his podcast, kind of laughing at the idea of paternity leave, period. But there's an argument that says that we're in crisis and that he should have, basically the controversy about whether or not it's good for him to have taken paternity leave basically soured the country on the idea of paid leave and helped to tank it in the bill.
I don't think so. I mean, that again, I think the reason that I don't buy into that is because, again, that takes into account, or that's based on the premise that the Dems were fighting for it. And, you know, they were just dealing with the hand that they were dealt. And I don't think that's true. You know what I mean? Like, they could have made the case for it. They could have said, look at, you know, they could have either focused on Pete or not focused on Pete. All you have to do is, well, you know, that's a distraction. What we're talking about is the American people and Americans needing to not be away from their family and not have to get sick, or, you know, choose between taking care of their kids and having food on the table. You know, I just think that whenever those narratives are like really tempting and they're appealing, but I think ultimately they don't take into account how power actually works, which is that unless there's actual pressure on the Democrats to do something good, they just absolutely will not do it. And it's not like, oh, but for this narrative about Mayor Pete, we would have had the Democrats fighting for paid family leave. I think that's just kind of like a cop-out.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think, look, I like, first of all, really resent the idea that people are putting me in a position to have to defend Pete Buttigieg. So poor form. But second of all, like, I don't really think that had enough penetration. Like, if they wanted paid family leave, we would get paid family leave.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
It might make it a little bit more convenient for them to tank it, but
you could say maybe it was one more thing they had to deal with or something, maybe, or one more box they'd have to check. But again, it's not like, but for that one thing. It's not like that. Again, we know this because the Dems just weren't fighting for it.
I agree.
And people, that's kind of like that's a narrative that I feel like it has a lot of purchase among people who are just kind of like looking for interesting hot takes. I'm not saying this in a way, I'm not accusing the person who asked the question of being like that. Mm-hmm. I think the people who are pushing stuff like that, it's just like, it doesn't work that way. Like, I remember a time when I would hear stuff like that and it'd be like, Oh yeah, that's fascinating. Would you look at that? Wouldn't that be interesting? Would that be ironic? I just don't think it's like that. It's all about power, and narratives are flexible, and things can get squashed, they can get inflated, they can get erased, whatever people want to do with them.
Yeah.
In fact, I'd say that narrative in itself is kind of part of the facade of the charade of force the vote, pretending that there are all these kind of obstacles to it, besides the Dems.
Yeah, totally agree. Patrick Leslie, thank you, asks, can we start a GoFundMe to pay for a whistleblower to provide proof of our assertions that corporate congressional interference is not only real, but top-down policy? This question is perhaps a good segue, Katie, into the news of the last couple of days that the alleged memo that the Biden administration has been waiting for to see if they have the authority to cancel student loan debt has been out and issued since the spring. They FOIA requested it. I think student debt, the Asher Taylor's student debt organization FOIA'd it. Yeah. And it's a redacted version, but we have it. And we know that the Biden administration has had it for a long time and has simply been dragging their feet on this. Now, the combination of that news, and I would argue also the advocacy that we've been doing on Bad Faith Podcast, has provoked several progressives in Congress to start saying that they're going to force the vote over student debt cancellation. So basically saying that this bill is neutered, the reconciliation bill is kind of a joke now. However, one thing that Biden can do by executive order is to cancel student debt, and that we are going to potentially maybe vote for these bills if you additionally do some of these executive orders, including canceling student debt. What do you think about that proposition, Katie?
Say that part again. We are going to potentially
force the vote. Go ahead and vote for these bills, even though they're not what we want them to do, if Biden goes ahead and does executive orders like canceling student debt. Would that be a worthy trade-off?
I don't know. What do you think? I think not. I think he should be dragged to do it anyway. You know, you definitely want to start there.
Right. But the question is there a world where Biden cancels any student debt? I mean, I know that he's done a minuscule amount that the Department of Education has decided to brag about for
give everyone a sandwich.
Right. But
an ice cream cone.
In a world, let's say hypothetically, that Biden cancels all 44 million American student loan debt. Is that it's like whatever $2 trillion. It's not real money, right? It's just canceling. It's not like you have to pay for it. It's right. Federally held debt, but $2 trillion or whatever it is at this point worth of debt completely canceled. It would be one of the largest transfers of wealth to working people in this country, probably in American history. Would that be worth it to say, okay, whatever, maybe we wish they had held the line better. Maybe we wish they had extended the CTC more than 1 year. Maybe we wish we had all of the things that have gotten cut out of this program, HBCU funding, etc. But it is actually a pretty big deal to have been able to coerce Joe Biden into canceling all student debt, which he was not going to do otherwise. Is that a reasonable bargain?
So, in other words, that in exchange for nothing more?
No, we get the $1.7 trillion bill, we get the BIF, and then we get student debt cancellation. Lee M says he has my vote if he does that. But Chet's mom 4 says no.
All right. What's the argument for what's the alternative to the, so if you're Chet's mom 4, what's the alternative? What should be done? I feel like you have an idea about this, Bree.
My feeling is that in lieu of anything like this, they're either going to vote down both bills and everyone gets nothing, or we get both bills, but it's the $1.7 trillion, it's the BIF and nothing else. And what's unique about this ask is that unlike some of the other, like they can continue to agitate for more to be in the 1.7 trillion,
right?
But then you're always going to come up against this rotating villain situation of Manchin and Sinema. They just decide, oh, okay, Sinema's for extending the CTC, but now she's against millionaire taxes, and then Manchin's against the CTC, but for millionaire taxes, and they keep trading off until we don't get anything, right? But pivoting it to demands based on executive orders takes it out of the province of the rotating villain.
Right.
And now, now the only downside is like maybe you think, oh, Biden was going to do this anyway, so there's no point in giving up your leverage and going ahead and voting for these bad bills for something Biden was already going to do. But I feel strongly in my heart that Biden certainly was never going to cancel all student debt. He was never going to cancel $50,000 of student debt. And he was never going to cancel $10,000 of student debt, except for families that earn less than $125,000 a year, work in public service for 15 years, hop on one foot on a hopscotch course, while there's a blue moon and one crow flies overhead, and all of this like Kamala Harris Baroque, ridiculousness, right? So like I don't believe that he will ever use executive orders for working people unless he's under threat, and this is the only conceivable threat I can think of.
All right, so I think you just laid it out. I hope the squad is listening.
I mean, they're kind of. I mean, they have been saying, to their credit, AOC has been beating this drum. So we'll see what happens. Should we take some questions from Twitter?
Sure.
Okay. Are you going to be the parliamentarian? Somebody asked. Very well guessed. Medicare for all.
Oh wow.
What would the world look like without corruption and greed? My answer to that.
Oh right. That's Star Trek, everyone.
Yep.
And that's the Dr. Spock reference.
Correct.
I'm saying that because I barely get that. Yeah.
Somebody has a cute Taxa Rich costume. Someone says New York mayoral raise, NYC mandates, had a trick or treat an unvaxxed NYC apartment, city workers on paid leave, etc. Someone says MMT because they hate me.
Monetary.
Yeah, I tweeted last night. I was on a date, and I brought like NFTs came up, and he was like, "What's an NFT?"
Oh, NFT, yeah.
And I was like, I couldn't tell if it was worse to be on a date where a man wants to lecture you about NFTs or one where he wants you to explain what NFTs are, which I very much didn't want to do.
I think I don't know. I wouldn't be able to do the second, but I probably appreciate it.
All right. I feel like we need to clarify our costumes again, Katie.
Right. I wrote mine into the thing. Yeah.
Wait, how do you change it?
You go to edit. You hover over the three dots.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Is Brie a scary pilgrim? That's kind of goody gray.
Okay. No, I am the parliamentarian. This is my bloody bill. Can you see that? I can't tell if you can see that. Okay. Which also brings me
to dating. Are we going to go to dating?
Katie, that's always where I want to go. I secretly just want to have Nicole Byers dating podcast, and I'm super jealous that I have to talk about.
Well, I was going to say, is this a date with someone? Who is this a date, like a first date that you went on with someone?
No.
Or is this a date like you've been on a couple dates and NFT comes up?
We've been on many, many dates. And
how is it when you do they know that you tweet like from the date?
Yes, he knew that I was tweeting when I was tweeting.
And was he amused, annoyed? What?
He was amused by it. He was charmed by it. He's not like, I don't know if you know, Katie, but we did, after we did our dating episode on bad faith, the person that I had been seeing at the time was rather chagrined by my oblique allusions to our relationship, and I have not seen him since we did that episode.
Oh wow, I didn't realize that was a tipping point.
Yes. So I'm sorry, I'm also gonna have to lose this robe because it's hot.
Yeah. That's why Kristen starts off with sometimes she does wear a long sleeve thing. So I was, when I was putting the outfit together, I realized she never shows any cleavage, that makes sense. But it's funny. She's like attention getting outfits, and you can be attention getting in certain ways, but there are just certain lines you can't cross. And one of those is cleavage.
Yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
I want to show a little clip of, let's see, how am I going to find this? Olay. I'm just going to pull up, a clip of that episode because it was one of my favorites, and I'm trying to put together a panel.
If it's cleavage, it's like accidental cleavage.
I'm trying to put together, Katie, a panel of men.
Oh, okay.
To do similarly what we did in our dating.
And Bree asked me to do it. I just wasn't free. Someone the other day was like, "Why did she do that?" When she started talking about dating on the Katie Halper show.
We're gonna do it again, Katie.
And I said that you had asked me. I couldn't do it.
We're gonna do it again, but I want you to help me brainstorm who we should have on this all male version of the panel.
Okay. Sure.
And for people who don't know what we're talking about, this is what we're talking about. Let's do a clip quick.
She's good at that one.
I wondered if anybody else had specific issues with dating as a leftist or a progressive or however you identify.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like I still feel you on that politics too, because I feel like there's so much I have to screen for before I actually am even ready to go on the date with you. Where were you on January 6th? It's typically my first question. Do you know what a hotep is? Okay. Are you still listening to Kanye's music? It's just a lot I'm trying to figure out before I can even get to, okay, let me pick out an outfit and let's go. Like, especially because I have a lot of friends who are sex workers. And I feel like that's kind of the number one crux of it, is like how you talk about women tends to be really important, because what people don't realize is, you know, okay, the othering that a lot of men do, even men on the left, the othering that a lot of men do in terms of like good women, like women they're gonna apply respect to, and like the girls they see on OnlyFans, listen, there's no difference. They feel that same way about every woman. So how you talk about them is how you're eventually going to refer to me. The good thing about with men volunteer their trash. You don't have to really pull too hard. It's not pulling teeth to get those layers back. They volunteer it. So they do tell you.
I don't actually agree with that part of that take, but that's neither here nor there.
Tell me why. Tell me why.
I don't think that I get the argument of like how a man talks about a sex worker. It's just it's a question of like time before he'll talk about a non-sex worker that way. But, and I'm not saying this in a, like, it's not okay. In other words, I'm not saying this as a, that's certainly, my objection to someone talking about a certain people a certain way is not because it's going to wind up on me, right? It's not like at first they went for the sex workers and I didn't say anything because it's not like that. But I happen to think that like there is and that shouldn't be the standard. But I think that like there are people who have very strong senses of propriety with which I disagree, and very strong senses of class, and like there's a lot of thoughts about sex and sex work that I find to be problematic, but that people very much square. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think you can be a terrible person and maybe not ever say anything bad about non-sex working women.
Well, sure. But I think that what she's saying is that there are people who could otherwise seem like very good people until something like sex work comes up, because that is an area where a lot of people haven't necessarily thought as much.
I agree. They don't hide it. Yeah, I agree. But I think that the other part of what she was saying is like, it'll never just stay there. I guess it's a bit of a semantics issue, because my point is that it's not like that he made them one day say about women the same thing he's saying about sex workers who are women. It's that I agree with the way you just framed it and phrased it. Maybe you would frame it that way too.
I want to thank Devotion Orange, who asks, would like to ask both of you if you're willing to invite Yvette Carnell or Antonio Moore to talk about reparations for ADOS. I would be happy to talk to either or both of them about that subject. And I want to take a couple more questions. I'm not off dating, Katie, because I have a question for you, because one of the topics that we focused down on, and we put a longer clip out at Bad Faith YouTube. Everyone watching should make sure they're subscribed to the Bad Faith YouTube channel and like all the videos that we can help with the algorithm, and then also head over to Katie's page and do the same at the Katie Halper Show. But we put out a lengthy clip from our premium episode, as we always do. And the section that we focus in on is like, would you date a Kamala Harris voter? Are there kinds of people with different kinds of politics that you wouldn't date? And I have to say, Katie, an issue that I'm currently contending with is that I may or may not be seeing someone in the Biden administration.
Ooh, wow.
It's DC. It's a small town.
Right.
What do
Small
we
town.
think of this? Does it matter what department they're in?
Yeah, of course it
Does it
matters
matter
what
what-
they're
okay.
doing.
So who's
I mean, are
who's
they dragging the
dragging-
Biden administration? I mean, some people in the audience, when I say this, will be like, haha, that's a funny premise. I was going to say, are they dragging the Biden administration left? And I'm sure some people in the audience are like, you get it. You can't get on that ship unless you're inexcusably, unforgivably to the right. But no, I'm a pragmatist. I think that, like, it does depend on what they're doing.
People are like, no.
Before.
The people are like, absolutely not.
But
no.
honestly, I'm sorry. I'm going to be real. Like, there are a lot of assholes who I see eye to eye with politically. And I would rather like a nice Biden person than an asshole Bernie person. Did
So
I just say that?
A lot
I
of
did
Bernie
say that.
people, and not a lot of Bernie people compared to other campaigns, but obviously some quotient of Bernie people do also work in the Biden administration.
Right. I'm just saying men in general are. I'm not, by the way, I should explain that I'm not saying that like more Bernie people are assholes than other people. I'm not. I'm just saying that like the things that I'm looking for in men are so rare that the Biden thing is like, you know, I don't know. What am I saying?
What if
I'm a little
what
tired,
if they
I'm a little
supported
tipsy.
what if they, the tipsy and tired is good, Katie, because that's when honesty
Yes.
and goodness comes out.
Right, exactly.
Now, does it matter to you if they voted for Bernie and are such a supporter of Bernie that they say hypothetically even have a photo of a Bernie meme on their wall?
You know who had a? You know, I saw that girl Megan, what's her name? Rapinoe, the soccer player.
Yeah.
She was a big Warren person, right?
Yeah.
Was she Warren.
Uh-huh.
She had a thing of everyone had to buy. If it's the gloves thing, that doesn't count.
Okay, if it's the gloves, it
Is
doesn't
the
count.
gloves meme? That doesn't count. That's a
Well,
trans political thing.
I
That's
hear you. But
That's
what if
not political. That's a cultural touchstone.
But Rapinoe was a big Warren supporter and didn't F with Bernie. What if this person actually was a Bernie supporter through and through?
That's fine. Oh, that's totally fine then. Yeah. That's
okay.
fine.
This person says, Kindle Links says not black, but paying border separation before reparation seems backward, like address latest issues before existing issues. Did you hear about this, Katie? A lot of
No.
people are upset. A lot of black folks are upset.
Don't know about
So there is a proposition to pay a really hefty, like 6-figure sum. I forget how much it is exactly, but like almost $500,000 per family separated at the border. And some folks are chagrined because they're like, you won't even have a conversation about reparations for the descendants of slaves, but you're immediately willing to pay enormous amounts of money out to families who have legitimately suffered a harm at the border. But why is it that every other group seems to attract notice? And this is also a kind of a conversation that came out around the anti-Asian hate legislation that passed earlier this year without any issue, seemingly at the same time that we had just had a whole year of the biggest protest movement in American history, and Joe Biden like basically screwing the pooch on George Floyd.
Right. Huh. I mean, can you put up that comment again? Not black, but
yeah, sir.
Right. But paying border separation before reparation seems backward, like address latest issues before existing issues. Wait. Address latest before I feel like this
I think they mean later. I think they mean later issue, like earlier occurring issues before.
Oh, I see. Right. I mean, I don't know. I haven't thought about this enough to know what my take on this is supposed to be. Like, is this dangerous? Because shouldn't we be not separating families? This seems a little bit like blood money.
Well, yeah, I mean, but still, it happened. So damages is the question. Like,
okay, damages.
Damages
I mean, I don't think that. I don't think that. Like, I don't really think that the way priorities happen are. I'm gonna get into trouble with this, but like, I don't think chronology trumps everything else.
Well, I think the reality is that there are, Black people are 10% of the population who are potentially 10% of the population that are going to be very angry and not vote for Democrats if they continue to perceive other groups with more recent grievances constantly getting more attention than they're getting. So you have, Katie, you and I went through the leaked Biden tape in an enormous amount of detail. People should go over and watch that video over on Katie's show. It has a ton of views. Where we go through this leaked call Biden had with civil rights leaders at one point, during which he said, basically, Latinos are the bigger group now. You guys have to moderate what your asks are because it's all about them now. And I think that that's a feeling that a lot of Black people have, that other constituency groups get more attention. And I think that is true, not because people like other groups more than us, because Black people always vote Democrat no matter what. And Latinos are more divided. And my response to Black people would be, your grievances are legitimate. You need to credibly threaten to withhold your vote from Democratic voters. Ice-T said that, Ice Cube said that. P. Diddy said that. Chance the Rapper said that. Sorry?
Guess all ISIS are the same to you.
But when everybody who says that gets completely dragged by the media, pilloried, and accused of being a Trump supporter,
as Trump supporters or disruptive third party, might as well be Trump people. Yeah.
Right. Which is why I'm so excited, to be honest. Like, I'm going to put my cards on the table. I think that what Yang is doing, all the criticisms of him aside, and we get into those on tomorrow's episode, but the fact that he's pursuing elevating third parties ranked choice voting and open primaries, I think is actually a really important step in undermining the duopoly and helping captured groups like Black Americans be able to say, I'm going to be able to vote my displeasure with Democrats without risking a spoiler effect, right? Because ranked choice voting would prevent that.
I think that part of the issue with the border stuff is that the Democrats walked themselves into a corner because they constantly ran as not being Trump on immigration issues. And as we've seen, they're not. I mean, I joked before Biden was sworn in that, like, as long as there's one fewer kid locked up, like in detention, they're going to just say, but Trump, whenever anyone calls them out on any immigration stuff, which I think has been true. Right. And we've seen all the language around it change, even though the policy hasn't changed that much. I think that, like, what's interesting is that they kind of depended on the anti-racist stuff. Like with the Black stuff, it was like he kind of what was his big thing? It was like aim for the leg instead of aim for the leg instead of the heart, which is like so dumb because the femoral artery, you bleed out. Also, that's just not the way you're supposed to do it. You're not supposed to. Yeah, it's like you're actually supposed to shoot to kill according to that stuff, so you shouldn't be shooting anyway. But which is interesting. It's like you're not supposed to be.
If it's not a threat that you're about to be killed, you shouldn't be shooting at anybody
anyway.
And if it is a threat that you're about to die,
right. So I think that, like, they're in a bit of a more of a corner, and as you said, like, there is the Florida vote is huge. I mean, this is a really big question. There's so much stuff to talk about, but like, there is not the Black vote is totally taken for granted in a way that other votes aren't. So it makes sense, as you were saying, like, it's not going to be at the forefront. And I think that, like, I just think that they put so much into being humane on immigration, and they have so little to show for it that they're going to grab onto anything they can to show a difference between them and Trump in terms of the border stuff. So that's
it's
bad. I know that this is like polls are hard to talk about, and there's so much that goes into polling, like the India Walton poll that came out, which looked at how well she was doing, like forgot to take into account that run-in elections, people don't write in run-ins a lot. Like, it takes a lot of work anyway. But how much support among Black voters how popular is it among Black voters, reparations, in terms of other priorities? Do you have any idea?
I'm not sure, but it's a majority now. But the more we've been talking about it, like anything else, it grows in popularity. The reason that most Black people don't support it is because they don't think it's politically viable, and they want to seem credible and serious. But once you put on the table that someone else is getting reparations, then suddenly it's like, well, yeah, actually, if you have $500,000 to be giving out to people, then I am curious as to why it's a complete political non-starter when we're talking about my group of people in particular.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Back to dating. Katie, do you talk about politics on dates?
Yeah, it's hard not. I mean, I'm trying to remember. Yes, I do.
And how does it usually come up?
Well, it depends on how long I've known them and stuff. But obviously, sometimes it's like, if it's talking about me and my life, it'll come up because that's what my podcasts are about.
Well, what about it's like a first date.
Yeah. It's hard not to, right? Because if the person is like Are we talking about dates with someone who we don't know well? I mean, if it's someone I know well, we're going to talk about politics because that's how we know each other.
Off
But if
an
it's
app,
like,
it's from an app. You don't know them. It's a blind date.
yeah, it'll come up. What I do will come up, right? Inevitably, what each of us
Well, how
does.
does it go, Katie? We're on a date. We're on a date. We're on a date.
All right.
Hey,
Hey,
so what do you do for a living?
I host 2 podcasts. Like YouTube shows.
What are your podcasts about?
They're both about politics.
So, like, what do you talk about? Like, you know, like Donald Trump and obstructionism and like 1-6. Like, what kind of politics?
No, not really. More like, you know, I was a big Bernie supporter, so I would say kind of, you know, we focus on both shows. Well, I have 2 shows, and one of them is more like Bernie-esque, just leftist politics. The other one is kind of a little bit of a combination of leftism with like libertarian leftism, and it's me and this other guy.
Whoa, libertarian. Like, so what? Like, how are you left and a libertarian? Aren't they like conservatives?
Well, we agree on a lot of. He's left too, but like I'd say on one, I'm more of a socialist, and that drives a lot of my coverage.
Whoa. You're a socialist? Like, you're gonna throw me in a gulag? Like, you're not gonna, because I'm a small business owner.
Yeah, I mean, this is not going to be it. I doubt we're going to get to the date. I think something would have been filtered out beforehand. But yeah.
Katie, what if they hit you with, oh, yeah, you like Bernie? Yeah, me, I was a big Warren guy because I really respect women.
Then I say, which policies you like, and which policies were more feminist?
And, I see a lot of guys in like Warren shirts, and then I also see a lot of like non-black guys, I think, who are telegraphing that they like black women by wearing like Kamala shirts.
With the name?
Like,
oh,
you were barking at the wrong tree, sir.
Yeah, right, yeah. No.
Phanto says reparations for all people who suffer depression. I am with you. Let me just catch
By the way,
up.
Phanto, I just want to thank Phanto for letting me know about the Magnetic Fields concert that I went to last night. It was so fucking good. They're so great. Everyone check out Quickies, their latest album. But what was great is that they played a lot of old songs too.
Cool. Justin Johnson says, while I agree the non-address of reparations is gross, take the money and the win. Remember, government operates on precedent. Use the payout to advance the cause. Yeah, I agree. I don't like the idea of, and sometimes the ADOS community can get into this, hitting groups against each other.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate.
The argument should be they got this, so we should also get this. And
not they shouldn't get it. Right.
Yeah, there's the same kind of ugliness that comes out where people start to like point to kind of people who've gotten Holocaust payouts, and it's like, well, no, the argument isn't against doing that, but it's there's incredible, really recent precedent for that, right? So like there was a payout there was a payout from the train company that was taking people to concentration camps just in the last few years, and one of the critiques that Bernie got was that he supported the bill to pay those victims. Somehow America was involved in distributing those sums, and Bernie was supportive of it. And people were like, well, Bernie, you supported that, why don't you support reparations? I think that's a better argument. Yes, do both. Sure. Then this group is less deserving, or this group isn't like, you know, that
is politically unsavvy. Yeah. Right. Yeah, you want to get all those people on your side, you don't want to alienate all those people.
I mean, in the most base political terms, the people that are getting the payout in this instance are not voting citizens, so it's not but
the people who sympathize with them certainly are.
Sure. Why does Jesse Sanders ask, why does Bernie keep refusing to play hardball / call out Biden's inaction? It completely deflates the progressive movement. Do you think there's anyone calling out Sanders in private? I've got a clip for this, but Katie, why don't you answer it while I find this clip?
No, I don't know. There needs to be. I mean, how much? I don't know. What do you, Bree? You talk better on this than I do because you know the guy better.
I don't know, Katie. I'm interested to hear your perspective. You've been in politics longer than I have, and I really trust your judgment and your feeling on this. Like, and I know that you're someone who, like me, has a lot of genuine affection for Bernie Sanders, even though they're frustrated by him, and can have like a kind of I think a clearer critique of him because you know it's coming from a good faith place. Right. So what do you think motivates someone like Bernie Sanders to not be more vocal than he's being right now about Biden's role in all of this?
I think we can't totally discount the power of peer pressure. I think Sanders is someone who withstands it a lot more than most other politicians, for sure. You know, you just see him. He's not part of that world the same way that other politicians are. But you can't, like, you feel it, I feel it. it's not like negligible. Even if you decide to act against it, just making those decisions, like it's something that has to be responded to. It takes up a lot of oxygen and a lot of energy. So maybe part of it's that. Maybe, you know, the guy is like, he's very shrewd. And he's very, people think a lot. I think people think he's more of a blowing up the system guy than he actually is. Like, if only, you know, like Jack Allison jokes. Ultimately, sadly, he was indeed a Democrat. You know, much to the chagrin of people who are constantly saying he's not even a Democrat. He was even a Democrat. I think that he's probably wants to maintain the power he has. I mean, it kind of doesn't matter why, because as you brought up with Ro Khanna, it doesn't matter if it's out of credulity or out of disingenuousness. Like, I think that he may just make calculations where he thinks it's better for. I don't think that. Okay, from what I can tell about him, he seems stubborn, which can be a bad thing. He's a Virgo. Okay, there you go. In that language, are Virgos stubborn?
The stubbornest.
Okay, the stubbornness. So he's stubborn, and I don't think he actually does it for like a self-interested power thing. Like, I don't think he does it because he wants to have more power and cachet in a kind of like personal level. I think he wants to have power and cachet because he thinks he will do right by the American people, you know, more than others. Which again, you can argue that that's misguided. I'm not saying that it's the right calculation to make, but that's my sense of it, that he actually thinks he's going to be able to influence.
Well, I asked Bernie's deputy campaign manager, Ari Rabenhoft, this question a few months ago on Bad Faith Podcast. Again, that's what you're listening to. Subscribe, like, and go through and like all the videos so you can help us beat the algorithm. And this is what Ari had to say.
Bernie believes he got the maximum amount that he was going to get from Joe Biden, and that's when he settled. Did he think he was going to get an inch more? And I'm telling you the answer was no, and I'm telling you on the other side of that equation is by extending that out in that moment. Yes, he is a backstopping, relationship-based individual. That is who Biden is. I do believe that at that moment, Bernie Sanders believed he had exerted what he could, and that was the peak of the hill.
There's a world where Bernie stops trying to be the amendment king and realizes this is the end of his ride.
Yeah.
He's not going to run for president again, in all likelihood. If there were ever a time where the risk reward militated in favor of burning it all down, as it were,
I think he makes a different calculation.
That is clear that he makes a different calculation. It is clear that, but I think it's important to frame up and do the thought experiment for how things could go differently. Because as much as we root for the success of Senator Turner, as much as we root for the success of any of these firebrands, if at the point, at the crisis point, if at these moments of opportunity, they all flag and they all choose to do the less ambitious thing, the thing that ultimately preserves the system as it is, then that's a choice and that's fine. But I would prefer them to advertise themselves as being that kind of politician, because there is a real appetite for a genuine, sincere radical. And history has shown us that without the existence of those radicals, the Bernie Sanders of the world aren't able to actually achieve anything. And we need to identify the radicals and support them as well. And right now, it just feels like a void.
So in the course of that conversation, I basically asked Ari, and again, that's a two-parter. The second part, which is the premium part, has most of this meaty kind of back and forth with the two of us. But I was like, look, what is Bernie's angle here? And Ari was pretty honest, and he was like, look, what I think is happening is that Bernie has been fighting for a lot of the things that, even though they're incremental, are in this bill, even the cut down one, even a revised version of this,
right,
for decades. And that he was about to go out without any of the stuff being passed. And for him, it's not that he loves incrementalism and something is better than nothing, but that for him in any given year, accomplishing any one of these things really would have been a really big get. And so he has a different kind of perspective where he isn't focused on as much on the potential of this moment or any given moment this year, as much as the gap between what is being offered now and what has been offered in the past. And so for him, it's worth the compromise.
Right. Someone has a comment in the. I don't want to. Someone wrote something that I feel like is not who Bernie was.
What's that?
Right underneath that, but that's funny. Read Phantom. I mean, Phantomus is
This one?
comment is funny. Yeah, I don't think that that's true, but you'd know more than I would.
Yeah, I don't think this rings true for me either. But Phantomos Fonto said, "Oh, we're back to dating." LOL. Yeah, I don't know. I'm enormously grateful for what Bernie has done and his ability to have elevated all of these issues and concerns.
Yeah, this was not about access. I mean, again, say what you will about Bernie, say he's wrong, say he's making a bad political calculation. I just never thought. I don't buy that it's about access and personal gain.
Yeah. Fontomos Fonto asks, when I'm on a date and she says she likes Kamala, I take the ice water and dump it on her head and say not compatible. See ya. When it be ya? Is that a dating technique, Katie?
No one's ever done that with me, and I won't do that with anyone. But it is a good litmus test. I should go on dates and have pictures of people and ask them their association.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I feel like this is more difficult than I think people are really willing to wrestle with. I have always felt, as someone who, historically has dated Black men and prefers to
It's
date
so fun taking you
color,
seriously. You're talking about really serious things, and then you have this fucking site.
cuddling
Yeah.
my spice.
Yeah. What a metaphor for dating. Yeah.
It has felt already like I'm like dealing with like a very small pool. And then within that pool, whatever my personal predilections are narrows it further. And then this political thing, to be kind of a part of a narrow political community, does narrow it even further. And it is the case that a lot of people are in some stage of their political development, that I was in fairly recently. So like, how am I going to judge someone who's basically
Right.
where I was 5 years ago, who is completely open to me, the openness to being radicalized and openness to certain ideas is much more important than like being 100% already there.
Yeah. If you're a Bernie hater, that's different from being I like Bernie, but I think he's, I don't think the country is ready for him. That's different from being like Bernie's a misogynist, racist.
Right. Or even like not supporting. To me, if you voted for Bernie, like I'm truly not asking you any other questions. Like I don't need anything more from you.
Yeah. Right.
Like, that's what you've already come so far.
Yeah. You're out of the wilderness. Yeah.
Back to Bernie. Valerie asks, this is a Patreon exclusive question. Valerie asks, how would you describe Bernie's behind the scenes personality while working for him? Have you been in contact with him since working for the campaign? And have you ever tried to get him on the show? All very interesting, legitimate questions. To the first one, I am not especially privy to his behind the scenes personality because I was not, he was on the trail for most of the campaign and I was in campaign headquarters and did not get very many opportunities to travel. I think I traveled once for the campaign. There were surrogates and things. People
Before
ask
you got hired or after?
No, after. I used to travel all the time as a journalist. That's part of why I said earlier in this, broadcast that I think I did more better work and felt more useful as a journalist than I did on the campaign. And I think I begged to travel to Texas about a month into the campaign to record a Bernie on the Road episode. And I don't think I traveled. Oh no, I traveled we did a HBCU tour. We were the first and I believe only campaign to do one of those. And so that happened probably January-ish. And then one other time, I think I went on the road to go to Politicon, but that wasn't like with the campaign. That wasn't with Bernie.
Right.
So I can't really speak to that. Although I think that the thing about Bernie is that there's like no real backstage, front stage Bernie. He's pretty much who you would expect with just a little, less on camera, a little looser, a little looser. Have I been in contact with him since working for the campaign? No. Have I ever tried to get him on the show? I mean, I asked Ari when we had him on the show, but he's no longer working for Bernie. And I had a contact with another staffer recently and put some feelers out. And I haven't reached out to his comms director, who was the comms director of the campaign, in part because I feel like I already know the answer to the question. Right. But I plan to at some point. I've been really excited with some of the guests that we've had recently. Obviously, we just had a big interview with Ro Khanna. And this is a little bit of a spoiler. I will be interviewing a squad member tomorrow.
Whoa.
for Thursday's
Male or female?
episode. No, that narrows it down too much.
Oh, it's male.
No, either way, it narrows it down too much because there's basically all the new squad members are male and all the old squad members are female.
Oh,
So it's like basically 4 and 4, right?
I guess so.
So I just am not trying to, but we do have a squad member that I will be interviewing tomorrow for Bad Faith Podcast. So subscribe to make sure you hear tomorrow's interview with Andrew Yang. And the free episode on Thursday will be this episode with a squad member. Don't say I don't love you. Don't say I'm not out here hustling and trying for you.
Oh, someone also said, what about someone apolitical like an artist? I'm totally fine with that. In
I
fact,
would love that.
some ways I prefer that.
So I was also seeing a athlete, a coach, an athletic coach. And I felt really good about that as a complete non-political.
Yeah, it's nice to have a
situation.
departure. Yeah, not worry about that. Yeah.
Although
It is really nice.
That's a mixed bag.
Good. You know why it's good? Because it's nice to be able to realize that like things that, especially if you date someone who's like into politics. So I've dated like people, my last probably, serious relationship was with someone who was like super into politics, but didn't work in that field, like did something else.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last person I dated with no real potential was someone who was like not at all in politics. But the nice thing about didn't follow it. The nice thing about that is it's like when you have to explain to someone why you're upset about something that's some online fight, you get a sense of how unimportant it is. Like in a way that you don't when you're dating someone who follows the politics. Because you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that today, like Charles Blow and what's the person who did her nails like at someone dying in Georgia? You know what I'm talking about. Charlotte.
Oh,
Clymer, Charlotte Clymer. Like if I'm like
Charlotte Clymer, sorry,
Charlotte Clymer, and like Charles M. Blow like attacked me, and then if the person who you're dating knows who those people are, it's just like, oh yeah, that sucks. Sorry, but there's something refreshing and healthy about being like, who, what, why did that matter? Who are these people?
Is it, Katie? Because I go both ways. Like sometimes you want someone to have enough context to know why you're upset.
Yeah,
right?
But it's also helpful for you to have to say out loud, like, oh, it's someone online who probably doesn't have that much power and is more symbolic of something, and someone who is a New York Times writer. There's just something puts in perspective.
So I dated someone like a while back who was also a different kind of coach. And
motivational coach?
I'm sorry?
Like a life coach?
No. Another kind of
I know,
sport.
I'm kidding, yeah.
And
I
really liked. At first, I was like, "This is so refreshing." When I say I've had a bad day, it was like around the force the vote time, and it was like when I say it, like I'm really sad about all of this. A part of me was like, "This is great." He's like, "What is it? Like this sounds so silly," and I'm like, "You're right. It is silly. I should turn off this internet and focus on that you're a total babe."
Right.
But I also sometimes I'm like, no, actually, this is meaningful to me. I'm really like finding something that is important to me, and I want you to understand my work. But I don't necessarily have the energy to explain it all to you all the time and give you the context and background that's necessary for you to understand why, yes, I'm going to have a bad day when half the internet is calling me an anti-Semite. Like I have to explain to you what a Talia Levin is and like why, like, what a Brockbot army is. Like sometimes it's like, I appreciate having a bit of shorthand so that I don't have to do the additional emotional labor of explaining to you why I'm so sad.
Right.
And I can't tell which is worse. That's why I tweeted last night and then deleted it. Like, I can't tell if it's worse to be on a date where someone wants to talk to you about NFTs or to be on a date where you have to explain NFTs.
Yeah. I'm not sure. You still don't know where you're going with that? Luckily, I don't know enough about NFTs, so I don't really have that much choice.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of why it's stressful to have to explain it in the first instance.
Right.
Here's a good one. Harvey Patricia, another premium Patreon subscriber question, asks, if you could throw various politicians into a cauldron, what flavor would each bring? I like that question.
We're matching up the flavor to the politician?
Yes. Maybe we should start with Kirsten Sinema since that is who you are. Yeah.
Okay. So what flavor? Like, is this in a way that's like satisfying or appropriate or what?
No, like what is the essence? Like what does your tongue say?
Of their punishment?
No. What flavor are they? Like
flavor are they?
if you were
Okay.
adding Kirsten Cinema to a soup or a
Oh,
spice.
I see what you're saying. Sorry. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Um,
My gut says cinnamon because the name.
oh, cinema, right? That's but like, hold on, strawberry shortcake, something like saccharine, not really that good, or something fake, yeah, something fake, like a cherry, some fake cherry flavor.
Oh, I get that, like a maraschino cherry kind of a deal.
Yeah.
Okay, what about Joe Manchin?
Chew, or what is it called? With tobacco.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
Chuck Schumer.
Chuck Schumer. He would bring some kind of aftershave.
Okay. Ayanna Presley.
My
brain said Werther's Originals.
That's interesting.
Like something like warm and sweet, like butterscotch.
Yeah, I think cocoa butter.
Yeah, I was thinking that, but I was like, I don't know if that's just really racially reductive.
That's why I didn't say it either. But once you said the warm and sweet, I felt comfortable because that's what it's about. Like it's about that actual. It was like the smell, which is like a nice.
I mean, she's got great skin. It is what it is.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, great skin and cocoa butter. I associate with very smooth. Yeah.
Warren.
Cotton candy, but like gross cotton candy.
I was gonna maybe say like arugula.
The
Barack
not
Obama.
arugula, but Barack Obama. Armani Armani.
Wait, but what about a food flavor?
Right, I'm just like associating them with. This is a hard game because is this like essence or like what they would wear? Because I think I'm going back and forth. What essence they are?
Flavor? What food flavor would they translate into?
Like what their essence is, not what they'd be around.
No, what food flavor? Something that you would eat.
What was the one? Okay, it has to be food.
Edible.
All right, fine.
Yes, like why would you put aftershave into your cauldron?
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Well. All right. Oh, why would she be arugula? I'm trying to get this.
I don't know. She just seems like she would be. She's healthy. I
feel
like,
but annoying, kind of annoying. But
arugula
is good,
spicy,
but kind of bitter. Yeah.
Yeah, that little.
Right,
yeah, that after kick.
And I think she's celery. She's so boring.
I like that. Okay, but what about Barack Obama? I thought we were going to move on to Barack Obama.
Barack Obama would be. Barack Obama would be. Well, I'm thinking of a nut because remember he like almost had once he was talking he was like I got a nut stuck in my throat. But let's see, what would he be? Kind of a banana.
Okay.
No, like something deceptively healthy that's not actually healthy. Okay. A muffin.
But flavor, Katie. Like we're thinking of flavors, not literal food.
Well, what flavor do you have for him? It's hard for me to play this game.
My
I don't know why.
instinct was one of those like red and white, like a peppermint, like a not that tasty but very strong peppermint flavor.
Like a red white swirl.
Yeah, the kind of thing that starts out good, but it's like you want to spit it out after a while because the aftertaste is bad.
Right.
And then I was thinking cinnamon, but mostly just because he's like tall and skinny and brown, like a cinnamon stick.
Like yeah.
Okay, one more. Let's do one more conservative. What about
Mitch McConnell?
Mitch McConnell, yeah.
Like cobweb.
Okay. What do cobwebs taste like, Katie?
What do they taste like? I don't know. Something bitter. All right, let's see. What's something bitter that I don't
like anise?
No, because that's like that has like some interest. That's like an interesting thing. Oregano. I really don't like oregano, but it's not cutting. Oh, like some stinky cheese because I hate cheese. Okay, so he would be.
I like that.
Like a feta or something. I came out as anti-feta the other day.
Good.
Yeah, but I don't like it. So for me, it's not. That's why this is such a hard game.
I'm gonna say he's like tempeh or like tofu, something that just has like a generalized wet old smell.
Oh yeah.
Morris Beatty, idea for a show, the NYC dating scene might get a lot of interest.
From DC to NYC. I know. I should have a.
I'm not above
Sure to
doing
take
some pure entertainment. You know, there's nothing that takes away from the left for me to do pop culture crap. My dream sellout gig is for someone to pay for me and my mom to do a workout video.
Why don't we do that? Why don't we do a workout video?
Well, because it was going to be a mother-daughter thing. 'cause we
Okay,
all-
fine. Well, what about Nora and your mom and me and you?
Okay, that could be cute.
Yeah.
We can get Jane Fonda involved and do a whole
Yes.
series. Okay, hysteric writer asks, would you date someone who did not graduate from college and works minimum wage?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I do think that there are some there is a correlation, but not direct, with having a certain kind of life experience and kind of moving in, be a certain comfort level with the kinds of things I want to do, which is neither here nor there. People don't want to say this or admit it, but like one of my least favorite things when I go on a date is when someone says to me, "Oh, that's a big word," and you can say, "Brianna, get over it." Like it's a compliment if someone's impressed by some vocabulary term, but inevitably it's a word that I don't actually think is a big word.
Yeah.
And which kind of exposes the extent to which there are these kind of gaps between us that make me, I mean, maybe I should go to a therapist and talk about why that makes me
Well,
uncomfortable.
no, I don't think there's any problem with wanting a non-gap. I just think that there is not I think that there are plenty of college graduates who would be like, that's a big word. And
I agree.
Non-college graduates who would understand what you're saying.
I also agree with that. I agree with that on both fronts.
Yeah.
And I have, you know, I have gone out with, you know, delivery bikers and, you know, people who work other kind of jobs like that. So,
dated a Stuyvesant Town security guard, who happened to be not college educated, but a lot are.
Yeah.
Many years ago.
Okay. Let's go back to another premium question. That was a really good one, Harvey Patricia. I appreciate you for that. Thomas Coyne, how do you feel about the lack of solidarity with the plight of the American working class abroad? In my opinion, it feels like leftists across the pond and up north would rather mock American distinction than show any support. Do you agree?
I guess where's that person from? I'm just curious. You don't have to tell us, but if you want to. I guess there is a bit of a divide and conquer. It's like the macro of identity politics.
Say more.
Well, I think that sometimes, there's a macro scale of the haves and have-nots that blinds, just like identity politics can blind actual connections, right? So like Emmanuel Wallerstein talks about like the core and periphery and semi-periphery. So it's like the upper class, middle class, and lower class. So like the core is the upper class, the periphery is the lower, and the semi-periphery is like the middle. And so sometimes when we see the world in that way, it obscures the class identities within each country. So like, I think a working class person maybe in England will look at Americans as all, there's some classism in there too, but like we'll either look at Americans as part of, although I would think it would come more, not as much from there. I guess it's easy to flatten the people of countries into where they are in the world economy. And that can be dangerous because the movement should be international, and not just international, but internationalist. And it should be about the overlapping common interests in the 99% in all countries, as opposed to, obviously, like, we should not be defining ourselves by what we have in common with the top 1% of our nation, quote unquote.
I'm glad you took that one, Katie, because you had a lot more cogent things to say than I was going to have to say. I will completely confess that internationalism is a weak spot of mine, and I always welcome suggestions from you guys, both in Patreon and otherwise, about guests to have on to talk about various aspects of foreign policy. So please continue to do that. Ivan Del Sol, another patron comment, asks, would you consider hosting a conversation between People's Party management quote leadership and representatives of the disenfranchised and removed volunteer base. Volunteers are stuck in a controlled and siloed environment in that project and have no advocates to create accountability for perceived mismanagement. I haven't been following this super closely, but I would be happy to do that if some folks, I think that Nick has been pretty receptive to coming on the show and talking about things. And if Nick Brana and then whomever from the volunteer based wants to come on, I'd be happy to set that up and host that. Sounds like a really productive conversation. I also know that we have long overdue a conversation between Jill Stein and Green Party folks and People's Party folks about what the best avenue there is forward. And maybe we can also get someone from the Forward campaign to participate in that forum now that that's percolating. Nick Nelson asks, I would love to see you interview Candace Owens. I'm open to that. Someone described me on the internet the other day as Candace Owens's Wario, which I was like, doesn't that make me good?
Yeah.
Like what you're really just saying is that I am on the left, she is on the right, and we're both Black.
Yeah. And media savvy.
Astute observations, Kings.
Yeah.
This is the last Patreon comment. I think I'll have to refresh, but Dirkin Tulane, okay, he wrote kind of like a missive. And that's not really a question, I guess. And so I'm going to skip this one, Dirkin, but I appreciate you weighing in. Like, it's just a lot of words, and I don't think we should have to read them all right now. Someone asked, what's a Wario? This must be a young person. Gather around, children. Back in the day, we used to play a game called Super Mario Brothers. And there was a whole cast of characters you may be familiar with. Luigi, Yoshi, Princess Peach, etc. And one of the games that came out was Wario, which is like a flip evil universe version of Mario. So to say that I'm her Wario would imply that she is in fact good, the Mario, and I am Wario, the evil one. But the point I'm making is that we would be opposites. And so I think I'm very comfortable being described as the opposite of Candace Owens, and it's not clear to me why that would be framed as an insult. I would love to interview Russell Brand.
Oh my God, yeah, me too.
Like we have a lot in common, and I think that we could have a really kind of interesting spiritual, metaphysical conversation that I think that he would also enjoy. So I think you should @ Russell Brand, go to his videos and say, go on Bad Faith. If you have some contact with Russell Brand, feel free to hook me up, the DM, etc.
Yeah. And then me after that happens.
Also, Katie, I'll always put you on to whomever we have on. My guests are your guests.
Yes. Same.
Okay. Wario would be a Republican. Okay. So Katie, we've been going for 2 hours now. I told you
short. Short.
Yeah.
This is short for me and Brie.
I told you we wouldn't keep you that long. It looks like we've gone through all of the questions. Let me just refresh the Patreon real quick. I want to just reiterate that I am the bill killer, Kirsten Sinema. I will
and I'll
end all legislation and have absolutely no accountability. I'm willing to fall on the sword for the Biden administration. We are here with Katie, Kirsten Sinema, Halper. Always a treat. And I just want to thank all of you for joining us this Hallows Eve, giving me an excuse to put my costume on because I'm an elder millennial who had nothing to do and no place to go on this Sunday Halloween evening. And so I appreciate all of you. And I always appreciate you so much, Katie, for being one of the best swing co-hosts that's out there on the entire left.
Yeah, you too.
Can you tell our audience where to find you in your show?
Of course, yeah. YouTube.com/The Katie Halper Show. So that's YouTube.com/The Katie Halper Show or Patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. On Twitter at KT Halps, letter K, letter T, HALPS. Please subscribe to the Katie Halper Show.
There's also 630 of you still with us. So please,
all
of you, like this stream. If you're not already following Bad Faith on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel so you get alerts about when impromptu live streams like this happen, and also to all of our videos. We, of course, do put out one free episode and one premium episode a month, but we try to put relevant sections, newsworthy sections of our premium episodes on the video platform so that we can advance the interests of the left as a whole. I don't proselytize very much or ask people to subscribe and stuff like that, but the qualitative comments under our videos often say things like, this is the best content on the left. No one's doing interviews like this. This is amazing. You guys are undersubscribed. People should be paying more attention to this channel. Why aren't there more clicks on this video? And so if you want that to be the case, and if you want us to help beat the algorithm, because we started this channel long after kind of the algorithm shift happened and didn't get the advantages of a pre-algorithm shift landscape, please, please, please do help us by both liking, subscribing, and sharing on social media when you have an opportunity to do so. It's easy to share. If you follow me on Instagram, you can like repost those videos and links and tweets and stuff. If you tag me in something on Instagram, I will repost it. So feel free to do that.
Post on Instagram now? Wow. I got
Yeah,
it.
you
I'm
can
like
just
out of
read-
date.
Yeah, if someone tags you in something, you can like add it to your story.
Oh, your story, right.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to do that. Thank you guys all for being here tonight. I hope you have a very happy Halloween. We're going to do this more frequently. Much love to Katie. Please go over to the Katie Halper Show YouTube page and subscribe and like her videos and her show and follow her channel as well. Support Ladies of the Left.
Yes, we got it. We still got to do our thing. We're going to do something together very soon.
We got to get Crystal together. We got to do this View of the Left thingamabob.
Alternative view. Yeah.
And thank you so much, Katie. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
tonight.
This was fun.
All right.
That's it. Come at us, Kristen.
Keep the faith, everyone, and good night.
The bad faith. Bye.